Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Dreamers and Doers, Women Living Their Dreams and in the process creating magic in the world. I'm Karoline Stevens from Journey to Empowerment. I'm a certified life mastery consultant, and this was one of my dreams to interview amazing women entrepreneurs and difference makers and bring them to you for your inspiration. And I'm so excited to be able to introduce you to a very dear friend today and a colleague of mine who I've known for probably about 15 years by now. And I've watched her grow in leaps and bounds and make a huge difference to so many people, women, children, teens. And she's just a really cool, fun, beautiful person to hang out with. And so I'm so happy to welcome Sharon Turton with the magic of manifestation. Hi, Sharon. Thanks for being here.
Oh, thank you, Carolyn, for that beautiful introduction. And yes, it's so lovely to be here and hang out with you too.
Oh, thank you. And so let me introduce Sharon to you briefly, and then I'm going to give her the floor. So Sharon has been on a spiritual journey for many years, and it has all culminated with her beautiful retreat center, Wind Spirit, in the Byron Bay hinterland of Australia that she runs with her partner, David. And as a presenter for the journey, Sharon's work is deeply transformational and guides people back home to themselves. How beautiful is that? And she's the author of 3 books, and she works privately over Zoom, as well as running group and private retreats at the magical Wind Spirit. So, Sharon, I would love to start us off by inviting you to share your story. Where did it all start, and how did it ultimately bring you to where you are now?
Gosh, it's a big story. I feel like I've lived about 5 lives in one. And I guess one of the really important things that happened to me was when I was a child, around 4 or 5 years old, I was really sick and I was hospitalized for many, many months. And being a child in hospital, it created a lot of fear inside of my body. I didn't realize it at the time, but it was a very scary thing. Mums and dads couldn't be there at the time in those days. But, I got better. It was no big deal. But it left an internal scar of fear, of anxiety, deep, deep, deep inside of me. And I basically became a doer to prove to myself that I was up to scratch, because I actually started school a year late because of my hospitalization. And I never thought I was up to scratch or as good as the other kids. So I became a doer, and I did well at school and I did well at sport and I did well at so many things, but I never felt as if I did well. And I carried this need to prove myself my whole childhood without realizing that that's what was happening, but it was. And when I left school, I thought, well, I'll go to university, I'll get that bit of paper, I'll prove to myself that I'm smart. And yet even with the diploma, I still didn't feel enough. There was that inner lack. So I did what a lot of young Australians do, and I took off around the world. And I traveled for about 10 years, searching for something, not knowing what I was looking for, but obviously now realizing I was looking for myself.
Mm.
I lived in different countries, different cultures, learned a couple of different languages, lots of activity happening. And I met finally naturopathy. I bumped into some people that spoke to me about the healing of naturopathy, natural medicine, and it really spoke to me. My dad was a pharmacist, and I'd always been interested in that sort of thing. So I studied naturopathy and studied, all the different modalities, iris diagnosis, nutrition, massage, herbal medicine, homeopathy. I studied them all. But even then, something was missing deep down inside. Even when I had a really good practice, lots of clients, I still didn't feel enough.
Mm.
Anyway, I finally found a partner, fell in love, got married, and had a baby. And I kid you not, for the first time in my life, I felt wow, I've done something magical here. Something amazing has happened. But the thing was that my little girl was born with eczema over her whole body, and she was a very, very quiet child. She was the child who was in the background. She was the one at the mothers group who was
Mm.
shade on her beautiful light. And I didn't know what that was. And there she was with a big red angry eczema. But I finally came to realize that that was because when she was in my tummy, I was very angry. My marriage was falling apart. I was in a very unhappy place. And a lot of my internal anger that I wasn't allowed to express, because in my childhood, we didn't express anger. You know, I could cry, but anger was not allowed. So I didn't know what to do with my anger. And I shut it down, and it went into my body. And that energy or that vibration went into my little girl. And I believe it was her eczema. Anyway, when she was 5, I was in my naturopathic clinic, and a new client came into my room, massaging this woman, and I felt a light, an energy I'd never felt before. And it was Brandon Bayes, the pioneer of journey work, as you know her well.
Yeah.
And she invited me to come along to the first workshop in Sydney, Australia, which was the next weekend. And I went along not thinking about myself, because I was so shut down. I didn't even realize I was carrying fear and anxiety and anger and all the stuff I was carrying. I was just like a zombie going through my life. And I thought, well, I'll go for my clients, because I know a lot of my clients have emotional issues. But when I was at that first journey weekend, I was taken back to a little 4-year-old me, terrified, in a sterile clinic with all these doctors around, stark naked and attached to these scary machines, and my mother being dragged out of the room. And it was the most terrifying memory that really, truly happened when I spoke to Mum about it later. But I had shut it down. I'd completely not allowed it to be there so I could cope, as children do, as we all do.
Mm.
So at the end of that process, which was a process of forgiveness, a process of healing, a process of release, and opening into the truth of, the deeper truth of who I really am. At the end of that process, I opened my eyes, and my world looked different. I can't explain what it was, but it's like a veil of anxiety maybe, or fear had been lifted, and it was, wow, there were more colors out there, And from that time, I started doing a lot of journey work. And yes, I was still doing naturopathy, so I was still working on the body, on the physical level. But having this new work, it was working on the emotional level and the spiritual level. And I did a lot of work on myself, and I started doing work on my little girl, because I realized if I had been carrying things that I wasn't aware of, and I actually had a great childhood after that episode, but my little girl had been living with a single mum who was angry, who was often somewhat depressed and very anxious, and her dad had left when she was 2 years old, and there'd been a lot of bad vibes between him and I before he left. And I was thinking, what is her world like? What has she grown up in? No wonder she's carrying this fear, this holding herself back, this lampshade. And no wonder she's got this angry eczema. And I started to give her journey work. Simple little sessions, because for children it's so simple. And after about 6 weeks, her eczema started to clear. Wow. And I maintained, because I was a naturopath, and she was on the most perfect diet. She had the herbs that were needed, the cell salts, everything was perfect, and I could maintain it. But once we got to the core of what was really going on for her deep down, that eczema started to clear. And within 6 months, gone, completely gone. And not only that, Karoline, but this little girl who was so nervous, who was so scared, who was so shut down in the corner, not socializing, she started to smile and she started to connect more with the other kids. And she started to really be who she is and start to live the life that she was meant to live. And now she's 26 and she
Mm.
is an amazing, powerful, empowered, confident, beautiful young woman. And she's done some things that she's been to Mount Everest Base Camp. She's
Wow.
she's been to that place. She's done other amazing things. She faces her fears. She speaks the truth. She's amazing. And I can only have so much gratitude for this work, the journey work, because it has just helped her to clear those blocks and be herself. And for me too, over the years, I ran the children's journey work around Australasia, New Zealand,
Yeah.
Asia, and I became a counsellor so that I had the mind skills as well as the physical and the emotional, spiritual. And so I've been running my own practice, running workshops for many, many years now. And I guess it was just a few years ago that David and I magically manifested this magnificent retreat centre, Wind Spirit, where we are so blessed to live now. So that's it in a nutshell.
Wow, what an amazing journey. And I just want to highlight some of the points that you mentioned is, the fact that we're all going through challenges and difficult times. And especially as children, we don't know, or even as adults, we don't know what to do with the emotions. We tend to shut them down and they don't usually go away by themselves. And this is for all the parents out there. This is so important for you to do the healing work because your kids pick up on the energy of the suppressed emotions that you are not even aware of. And so this is such a beautiful example, Sharon, that you just shared of how your daughter healed from eczema within 6 weeks of releasing the emotional issues that she picked up, and as a result, she's now this beautiful, outgoing person who is living her dreams, right?
Yeah, absolutely. She's living her potential.
Yeah.
It's like that lampshade has been lifted off her light and her light can shine. And she unapologetically allows her light to shine, which is so beautiful. She's such an inspiration to me to see that. And so many of the kids that I've worked with, children whose parents have kind of woken up a bit to what may have happened in the past, even the subtle things that can shut our kids down.
Mm.
And for the parents to start to look at themselves as I started to look at myself and how what I took on board as a child myself, my anxiety, my fear, how that was in my field of consciousness, of awareness. And so my daughter is growing up in that field because she's with me. So she not only grew up with a mum who was, angry and divorcing and single and busy and all the rest, but it was also what I was carrying from my childhood, my fear, my anxiety that had been shut down. And that was becoming a part of her. So as I was clearing my stuff, she was organically clearing as well without realizing any of this happens. It's energetic. It's so powerful. So beautiful. Plus, doing some work with her is like putting the cream on the cake, the icing on the cake.
Yeah. And not enough, like you mentioned in the beginning. I mean, this is such a common belief that so many of us carry and pick up somewhere along the line. And if we don't clear it, we are always going to keep ourselves small in some way. And I love how you said how you cleared it, and how this also allows you, Sharon, to show up and consciously create your life and really let your light shine. Let me just ask about the 3 books. You've written 3 books. Maybe you want to share about them?
Sure. I guess for me, being a single mum has been a massive part of my life. She's moved out now. She's, grown up. But for those first 20 or so years, it was huge. And I think because I was a sick child and I was hospitalized and they thought I had cancer, they put me in the cancer unit, and I made friends with kids and some of them died. And so from a young age, I was exposed to a lot of childhood pain, not only my own, but the other children as well. And I always had a deep yearning to help children and love children. And when I started running the Journey workshops around Australia, and I started really looking at children's issues and the emotional impact that life has on kids and how they take it on board, that they're not born with the tools to deal with parental separation or to deal with mum and dad yelling at each other or to deal with the dog dying or whatever it is. And so I felt called to write a book. And I kind of, at that time, this is about 10 years ago, I didn't feel that I could write it from my head, because it was almost like this book has to come from somewhere else. It's deep inside of me. I can't just sit there and write words.
Mm-hmm.
So I basically knew what the book was about. I wanted it to be a book for parents and children, a book of connection. And so I sat there and I did a meditation, put on some beautiful music, and I said, God, grace, the universe, guide me. Please guide me to write this book that I know you want me to write. And when I opened my eyes, the words came. And the whole book was written from that place. And that book is called Connecting Kids with Their Inner Potential, which was so what I was passionate about in those days, and still am, obviously. And it's a book for parent and child to do together, with journey stories that you can read to your child, with meditations, with activities where you and your child can do the activities and connect together in this beautiful space. So that was the first one. And then I wrote two more after that, which were purely for parents, not children. And they are teaching books for parents on how to be with your child, how to connect, and how to really be the best parent for your child, to acknowledge, to listen, to see, how to be with them. So they're beautiful, two beautiful books that really come from that place as well, that place of connection. I've got them here if you want to have a little look.
Yeah, please.
This one is the book this way. Connecting Kids with Their Inner Potential. Okay, and that one is a storybook. It's got lots of beautiful pictures and sorry, I can't get it quite in the middle. Anyway, that's a storybook for children and parents to do together with activities. Then the next book I wrote is The Art of Peaceful Parenting, which is 7 steps how to be the parent that you really want to be. And the third book is The Art of Taming Tantrums. And these tantrums are not just children's tantrums. They're also our tantrums, the way that we can lose it at our children, and how to really be the best parent for our kids.
Wow, what a beautiful gift you're giving to parents and to the children, the ripple effect.
Yes.
To the future generations. And I know some of the books, and they are absolutely beautiful. So highly recommend them. And also I love that you shared how you wrote the book, that you didn't kind of squeeze it out of your mind, but that you asked for help, you asked for guidance, and you just opened up, and how it just naturally flowed through you. So for anybody who's listening, if you have a book and you have a book inside of you, this is a great piece of advice, something to play with, something to explore.
Yeah.
So, yeah, beautiful. And so as a single mom, I mean, there must have been some really trying times for you, Sharon, some real challenging times. And so how did you deal with them? How did you deal with your darkest times?
Oh, gosh.
What helped you? What kind of tools, or how, what helped you?
What really helped was allowing myself to feel the truth of what I was feeling.
Mm.
Whenever I tried to shut it down, the sadness, the anger, the fear, whatever it was, and get on with things, I could feel this ache inside. And I could do that. We can all do it. We can push our feelings under the carpet and be
Mm.
strong and get on. But nothing changed when I did that. It was like I was on a rat wheel, on a roller coaster that just didn't stop, and the pain was always there. The busyness of life, the having to cope, the having to be a good mum, the having to cook and clean and earn money and feed her and show up, and it was exhausting. It was really hard.
Yeah.
So what was the easiest for me was when I was able to give myself space, which was not very often, but at night or when I was in the bath or on the loo or whatever, to actually just stop and check in and just check in what's here. And if there was sadness, if there was tears, I would welcome those tears and I would cry. And it's it's said by saints and sages and scientists that if we feel the pure raw emotion that's really here for 30 to 90 seconds, that it actually passes through. And
Mm.
I knew this and I wanted to try it. And there were a few times when I was in a really bad space. And when that happened, I sat and I felt it fully without the story of what was going on. Because if you go into the story, he said this and she said that, and that's not fair and poor me and all that stuff. If you go into that mind stuff, it makes it grows it. It makes the story bigger and bigger and all the rest, and you never get past it. But just to stop and feel the feelings, the raw emotion, and I found that it's true. No matter how big they were, they passed in 30 to 90 seconds. Doesn't mean they were gone, but the intensity of ache that I was feeling left. And then I could come back to me
Mm.
and listen to what I need to do in this moment, whatever that was. So it was easier for me when I did that, and I realized that. And I guess that's become a habit from that time. And in my life now, if I don't know what to do, I don't go to my mind. I go to my heart. I go to my gut knowing, to my body, and it always gives me the next step. It gives me the breadcrumbs. And that has happened over the years. And that's even the way that we found this beautiful land, is by listening to that gut knowing. We weren't even looking for this retreat center. It found us in the most bizarre way.
Wow, yeah, I would like to hear the story of that. But first of all, I love just the wisdom that you're sharing with us about how to just be with emotions and that they just flow through. And when we do this, we connect back to this deeper part inside of us where we get clarity on the next step. And like
Yes,
you're saying, the breadcrumbs. And often we don't get the whole plan rolled out in front of us, right, Sharon? It's
no,
just the next step, but that's all we really need to move forward, right?
that's exactly right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And so, yeah, I would love to hear more about your retreat center, how you, the magic behind it, and how you manifested it.
Well, we were up in the beautiful Byron Bay area in New South Wales, and we had a few days to before we had to go to a retreat up on the Gold Coast, actually. And we decided we'd go out into the hinterland and have a little look around. And we stayed at a beautiful bed and breakfast. We needed to make a phone call about the retreat, but there was no reception. It was completely off grid. And the people said, if you go up the hill, up the mountain, you will get 4G reception. So we went up the mountain, but we couldn't go all the way up the top because we got stopped by a herd of goats that were that were blocking the dirt road that we were on. And the alpha goat started walking towards my partner, and right behind him there was a big for sale sign. And at that moment, his phone went ding, it sprang into life. Without thinking, he dialed the number of the estate agents on the phone, on the sign. They said, hello, would you like to see the property? And we had a couple of days, and we said, well, sure. So they came up pretty well straight away. We looked at it. We fell absolutely in love with what we saw. And that was that. And we bought it, which was the most ridiculous thing. We weren't planning on moving. We weren't planning on anything. We didn't even look at any other properties. I mean, this is very bizarre when I look back at it. There was no mind involved at all. It was just pure gut knowing for us both that this was our next step. And the beauty of it was that, yes, it had a beautiful view. However, we couldn't see the Mount Warning or Wollumben from the property, but we knew it was there, but we couldn't see it. Anyway, the neighbours, when we bought the property, the neighbours said that we could slash the lantana that was right next to our property. They weren't going to use that piece of land, and we could slash it and use that as a bit of grass and a fire break, basically. Mm-hmm. So when we did that, and when we slashed it, we could go onto that land, and there was the view. There was the most magnificent view of Mount Warning, which is the first point in Australia, that Australian mainland, that gets the sun. So it is a very, very sacred mountain. And we have a beautiful, powerful direct view. I'm looking at it right now. It's right out my window. And as well as that, we have all the ranges that we could see before. So it's almost, well, it is. It's a 180-degree magnificent view, and we are on the side of a mountain ourselves. So manifesting the whole thing has just been amazing. And from there, the retreats have unfolded. We weren't planning on doing retreats. You know?
Oh, really?
No, we weren't planning. We were planning on getting a beautiful little house, but it turned out that what Grace wanted us to get was a bigger house with extra space, extra rooms, and to convert the old shed into a beautiful pavilion, and some of the other things that we've done. So we now have a beautiful retreat center, and it's just growing, word of mouth. And we've been doing retreats for about 6 months now and loving it. And it seems for me to be a culmination of a dream that I had as a child, because I used to live in the bush, or very close to the bush, and I love the bush. And leaving home, as I said before, I ran around the world for 10 years, big cities, Tokyo, Paris, all over the place, Sydney. And finally coming back to the bush, to this magnificent caldera where we live at the moment, with the tools that I have gained over the years, with children, with parents, with journey work, with individuals. We work now with individual private retreats. Couples come, families come, and we have our group retreats as well. So it's growing. We're not quite sure what's next, and we are just following those breadcrumbs of what Grace presents us. And I guess when it feels like there's an aliveness to the feeling that comes, when it feels like there's a rightness to it, well, we just follow that, with open arms and a big open heart, and the path unfolds in front of us, and that seems to be what's happening. And I look back at my life, and every time in my life, I mean, as I said before, I had a lot of anxiety, a lot of worry, and I was in my mind a lot. But every time I wasn't, and every time I really listened deeply and followed this, something happened. That was where the path turned to the path that my soul wanted.
Wow.
Not just the path that my mind thought it needed. Yeah.
Wow. That is so beautifully expressed, because like it sounds like your dream was unfolding in ways that you couldn't even have imagined it. But you were open, and you were willing to listen, you were willing to trust and go along with it. And as you said, this electricity, this aliveness that comes, and this feeling, this is right, even though we don't know how it's all coming together. Exactly. And you trusting and following this is such wonderful wisdom and advice for all of us.
Yeah. And the thing that I love about this is that now that I really truly believe it, because it took me a while to really believe, is that it kind of thing. But now that I really believe it and it does happen, it's so effortless. There's
Mm.
no struggle. There's no having to make it happen. There's not much doing in it, And of course, when I get a sense that something needs to be done, I do it, and that can be, quite full on, like working the land here. And, sometimes I'm physically exhausted, but it feels right, you
Mm.
know, it's following that. So it's not always, daisies and sunshine, but it feels good. It feels right. And things move. And this path that David and I seem to have found ourselves on is the path that well, it sounds very corny, but I'll say it again because it's true. It makes my soul sing.
Mm.
I feel it. Yeah.
That's so beautiful, and I can see this in you. And so, what would you say to somebody who has a dream but she hasn't gotten into action yet? What advice would you give to somebody like this?
Oh gosh, I think there's one word that really comes to mind, and that word is stop. Even if it's just for a moment, just stop. Stop the running, stop the mind, stop the doing, and just come back to this moment. Because when we are present, fully present in ourselves in this moment, that's where the magic is. And
Mm.
that manifestation truly starts. When we listen to what's here, and we can't hear it, we can't listen to it if we are busy and doing and doing. And it only takes a moment to really stop. It could be walking along the street, stopping and noticing that tree. It could be walking along the street with your child, busy as anything, stopping for a moment, getting down next to your child and listening to the bird, you know? It could be something simple like that, but just those few moments where we open up space, and in the stopping and the pausing, we open it up, and that's where the magic can come through.
That's when your soul can speak to you, right?
Yes, very
Yeah.
true.
Yeah, because also what you said earlier, when we're carrying old baggage from the past or feeling not enough, and trying to prove ourselves, that's often when we keep running and we don't stop, and we keep, we are on this rat wheel. And so, yeah, so this is why the healing work also is so important to help us peel away the layers so we can get more access to this inner, to our intuition, to our souls, because yeah,
Absolutely.
she
Yeah.
wants to speak to us all the time. It's just, are we listening?
Absolutely. And in that sense as well, if you get a sense of feeling, oh, there's something here, I need to clear it, go see a therapist, go get a session, because that's your soul speaking to you too, that there's something here that it's time to shift. So, whatever it is, when you come home to yourself, you're here. The breadcrumbs are there for whatever is the next step.
Hmm. Beautiful. So much wisdom. Thank you, Sharon. And so let's just go back to your retreat. So who would, like, if somebody's wondering, why would I want to go to this retreat? What kind of people feel attracted to it, or what do you offer? And,
Yeah.
what are the benefits?
Well, with the private retreats, they are very organic. They don't have a structure as such. The first day, the person, you come along and we do a session together, and we start to unpack whatever it is that needs to be unpacked here. And then from that, we design the retreat uniquely for you. So it is very intimate, it's very deep, and hugely transformational. So whether that is doing some very deep journey work, whatever type of therapy that might be that is needed, we go there. We have a lot of We allow people to have a lot of space and time to integrate the work as well. So you don't have to rush back home or whatever, but you can be here on this magnificent land. And one thing that I've found, or I truly believe, is that the land itself
Mm.
does a lot of the healing. You know, we are in the Mount Warning caldera. There's an energy here. There's a very high vibration. It's a power center on the planet, and things manifest very quickly. Things leave. Things come in. People get messages. People get centered. So it's doing the work as well as reconnecting with yourself, and going in the beautiful magnesium pool and going to our magnificent creek and all the other bits and pieces, the beautiful outdoor stone bath, forest bathing, a bath under the stars, and the stars
Oh,
are so gorgeous. You know, there's a lot that we offer. So if anybody is interested, to just contact me at sharonturton.com/contact, and I'm really happy to send you the links for the retreats. So we have the private ones for individuals. Sometimes people come as a couple, sometimes they come as a family. And our group retreats are structured around the elements. So we work on earth, air, fire, water. Earth being the body. We have a body day, the earth day, and the earth here is magnificent. It really enhances what we do. We have the air day, which represents the mind and how the mind can take over, and how are you with your mind? What's the relationship here? We do a lot of work around that. Then there's the emotional day, the water day, and obviously the emotions are the realm of the water. And we do some beautiful activities on our water day. And finally, we have the fire day. Fire being spirit, being that inner passion, that inner potential, so that you leave with that ignited and ready to really walk a new path in your life. So that's a beautiful, powerful retreat that we do. And they're intimate retreats. We have a maximum of 6 people at our retreats. So people really get a lot of individual work. Beautiful.
well, that sounds so amazing. I can't wait to get over there. And I know I talked to so many people, and they say Australia is on their bucket list, and so maybe this has the potential of becoming a destination. The same as Sedona is a destination. For personal development, spiritual development. Your retreat, it sounds like such a beautiful gift. For anybody who wants to deep dive and experience the nature, and being with Sharon and David is extraordinary. So highly, highly recommend for you guys to check it out. Send Sharon an email and get the information and put it on your bucket list. You don't know what is possible. Just open your mind, to the possibility.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're in the Byron Bay hinterland, and Byron Bay is already the destination in Australia for spiritual work and beauty as well. So, and we're up in the mountains behind it, which is just very yummy.
Mm. Beautiful, Sharon. Is there anything else you want to leave our viewers with? Any other nugget? I know you shared so much with us. Anything else? That's all.
Yeah, just, I guess, as much as possible, just come back to yourself. The
Mm.
answers are inside. We spend so much time striving for what's out there, you know? And if what's out there is okay, we can be at peace. It's not true. We can be at peace by coming here. The out there is always going to happen, whether it's COVID, whether it's fires, whether it's floods, whatever it is, life will happen. And we can't let our inner happiness rely on everything out there being okay. But we can come home to ourselves, because there is that place inside where we can be at peace. And I think the
Mm.
more we do that, the more we can get real with ourselves, the more we can really live the life that we choose.
Mm. That is so beautiful and so powerful. And Sharon, I want to thank you so much for being here and for sharing your wisdom and your light with all of us. So
Thank
thank you, Sharon.
you. Oh, thank you, Caroline. Beautiful to be here with you. Thank
Yeah.
you.
And so, to our audience, we may have viewed some of the episodes, and you see how beautiful these ladies are, how they're living their dreams, and how they're not just dreamers, but they're also doers, but not in a doing, pushing kind of way, but in a gentle, effortless, manifesting way. And in that way, bring so much light and magic to the world. And so, if you have a dream, and you would like to shift over to also being a doer or a manifester, I would like to invite you. I'm offering a free masterclass tomorrow. It's about exactly that, overcoming challenges so you can start to live your dream life. And it's about the power of vision, and would like to invite you, because this is my passion and my purpose is to help women and people build their dreams and live lives they truly love living. And so my email is on the ticker that's floating by here, contact@carolinestevens.com. So, yeah, I would love to hear from you. And otherwise, please share those episodes and to inspire your friends and families. And I look forward to seeing you again next week with another amazing episode of Dreamers and Doers. And so take care. Lots of love, everybody, and go out and live your dreams. Lots of love.